Secretos del Shred.
That's Pues,
Thank you very much. All right. So this is a little guitar seminar, clinic, question and answer type theme. I want to thank my band for playing with me, Dylan Wilson on bass, Mike Bennett on drums, and just for the nature of what we're doing here, I'd like to be able to see the people. Is it possible to change something in the light so I can see the audience? Can we do that?
que bajemos un poco la luz para que pueda ver a la gente, por favor.
So, in case you haven't gathered, I'm Richie Kotzen. That's perfect. Thank you. Thanks for that. And it's great to be here in Mexico City. It's my first time here in your town.
Su primera vez aquí.
And we've got a couple shows booked tomorrow night, acoustic set, which should be interesting. And then Saturday we're doing a live show with the full band. And it's all in support of my new CD, 24 Hours.
El día de mañana habrá un show acústico y pasado mañana el show eléctrico, todo con la música de su último disco, 24 horas.
Any of you guys heard that CD? Do you have that? Or
Yeah.
yeah? So at least you know. Great. Well, normally when I do these kind of things, I really look at this as an opportunity to talk to people that are interested in what it is that I do, which is music. And I'd have to assume that if you're at a guitar seminar that most of you are probably guitar players. How many people are guitar players? Good. All right. That's great. So the idea here is for you guys to talk with me, and we're going to have a conversation just about guitar and music, and hopefully there might be some things that I can help you out with and enlighten you, and maybe somebody might actually enlighten me with a few things as well.
Asumo que la mayoría de ustedes, ya que este es un seminario de guitarra, que pues la mayoría somos guitarristas, y pues me gustaría hablar con ustedes, que me pregunten sus inquietudes, y vamos a hacer una sesión de preguntas y respuestas.
So the first thing I guess I can start out with is I might as well talk about the guitar I'm playing. It's a Fender Telecaster, and it's actually my own model. It's a signature model that I developed back in 1996. So the guitar's been in production for quite a while, and finally now Fender has decided to make it available everywhere in the world.
La guitarra que estoy utilizando es una Telecaster que salió en 1996, es un modelo signature, pero finalmente Fender decidió liberarla para su venta, o sea que se puede conseguir.
And so if you look at the guitar, at first it appears like a normal Tele, but there's a bunch of things that are very interesting and custom as it relates to the guitar.
Hay muchas cosas que son inherentes a la guitarra, algunas cuestiones que fueron fabricadas de manera especial para mí.
Yeah. So the first thing I'll talk about on the guitar is the wood. It's a maple neck and fingerboard, and the body is on the top. There's a flame maple top, but it's also swamp ash on the back, which gives it a certain kind of tonal characteristic.
El brazo de la guitarra es de maple, así como el diapasón. La tapa es de maple flameado, pero el cuerpo es de fresno, de pantano, que llaman swamp ash, lo que le da unas características tonales muy especiales.
And as far as deciding the wood, after years of playing and trying different guitars, there were certain guitars that I had, that I played, that I liked the way they sounded. And then once I realized how they were made, I kind of applied that into designing this guitar, and that's how I came to the idea of using the combination of woods that are on this guitar.
Con el tiempo he podido tener muchas guitarras, pero con la experiencia he logrado darme cuenta que esta es la combinación de materiales que me gusta en el sonido de una guitarra.
And then the other aspect of the guitar that's a little interesting is the way the guitar has been cut as it relates to the body. On most Telecasters, they're squared off. On this guitar, it has a Stratocaster type comfort cut, which is something that I suggested to do back when we designed the guitar, as well as a slight curve here where your arm sits, and it just makes it a little more comfortable to play.
Otra de las características de la guitarra es que tiene este tipo de rebajes, tanto en la parte de atrás como una Stratocaster, y es un poco rebajada en la parte de enfrente también, lo cual lo hace, según yo, más cómodo.
And then for the frets, I tend to like the larger frets. So these are what they call 6100s. They're a little thicker and heavier. But for me, I'm more of an aggressive player and I have a harder attack, so they respond well to the way I play.
El tipo de trastes que utilizo son los más grandes, los que le llaman 6100s, que me permiten tener un ataque mucho más rápido a la hora de tocar, y es lo que me gusta.
And finally, the electronics of the guitar. I'm using DiMarzio pickups, and so in the neck position, it's a pickup called a Twang King, which is a basic Telecaster replacement pickup. It's a standard Telecaster style pickup. However, in the bridge position, there's something called a Chopper T, which is a humbucking pickup that fits into the single coil routing, and it's not a very loud pickup. It's really just a medium output pickup, but it is designed in a way that it doesn't hum, which is great. And then the final thing in electronics is in the middle selector position, rather than having a tone knob, what I did is incorporated a rotary switch, which changes the middle position from series to parallel. So it gives you one extra sound that you normally don't have in a typical Telecaster.
Las pastillas que utilizo son DiMarzio. La pastilla grave es una pastilla de reemplazo Telecaster de DiMarzio sin ninguna característica especial, y en la pastilla aguda estoy utilizando un tipo de pastilla Hot Ride de DiMarzio también, que es humbucker, lo cual hace que pues, la guitarra sea básicamente silenciosa. Otra de las adecuaciones es que reemplazó el potenciómetro de tono por un switch que cambia. What is that? The switch? What's the?
It switches the middle position from series to parallel. So, in the normal position, you get that typical Telecaster hollowed-out sound, and then if you flick the switch, it gives you a mid-range sort of boost. And that's all in the wiring.
Es un control básicamente de medios que altera los tonos jugando con el paralelo y el serie, ¿no?, de la conexión de las pastillas. Entonces tengo a la izquierda tengo medios normales, y cuando lo abro hacia la derecha tengo un incremento en las frecuencias medias.
And then the only other thing on the guitar that I should probably mention, just because if you go look at it in the store, it might appear different. I added an aftermarket item, which is a tuner. So when I pull the volume control, that little disc becomes a tuner, and I can actually tune a guitar without having to plug it in, which comes in handy backstage before a show and that sort of thing. The company is called N-Tune. It's not a part of the production guitar. It's something I added after the fact, but it's kind of a cool little thing to have.
El potenciómetro de volumen añadí un N-Tune, que es un dispositivo afinador que jalo la perilla y me funciona como un afinador digital, lo cual es un detalle muy cómodo que se hizo a petición mía. Esto no viene como parte del equipo de serie de la guitarra.
So having said that about the guitars, anybody want to have any questions for me, or
¿Alguna pregunta?
open it up to you guys? Go ahead.
In Japan.
Well, he's mentioning the fact that when the guitar came out, initially it was released only in Japan.
Japan.
And over the years, what has happened is more people became interested in the guitar. They started buying it as an import to various countries. And as of this year, Fender decided to release the guitar globally. So even though in the past you weren't able to get it, now you'll be able to find the guitar if you go to I don't know what your music chain is here, but for example, where I live, it would be Sam Ash or Guitar Center. You can actually go there, and if they don't have it in stock, you can order it. And that is just happening now for the first time this year. So if you want a guitar, you're curious about it, you should be able to go to your major music store chain and find someone there that can connect the dots and get you the instrument.
Sí, la guitarra la puedes conseguir en la Custom Shop de Fender en México, que es la Casa de Música Holocausto, que está en Bolívar 76. Ahí la solicitas y ellos te la importan si lo requieres. Pero sí es conseguible.
A lot of times when you have a situation where you introduce a product, it takes a lot of time for people to catch on, and a company that sells so many different variations of a product, there needs to be a demand, and luckily and thankfully we've gotten to a point with the guitar where there is a demand for it, and now people can buy it in Mexico or the United States or wherever else they might want it. Anybody else have a question?
Sí, él dice que a veces es difícil cuando sale este tipo de guitarras que se puedan comercializar, porque obviamente pues son cosas nuevas que se espera que haya una demanda suficiente como para poderla fabricar en serie, y es cuando ya, después de que se probó que si hay un mercado, es cuando ya las compañías hacen las guitarras disponibles para todo el público. ¿Alguna otra pregunta?
All right, so there's a couple people. There's a guy up front right here that I can see, and you're right there, so maybe we should go here.
Where did you come up with the idea of the drug D tuner?
I don't remember where I discovered that. I mean, I've seen it on a bass, originally, as most of us have. And there was a period of time where I was writing a lot of songs with a drop D, and for live it just made it easy. But I found someone that made it, and I think they're pretty common now. I'm not sure the company that actually makes it, but that's another aftermarket thing, other than the tuner. The drop D tuner doesn't come on the guitar. That's something I put on after the fact.
Él preguntó que, porque la guitarra de Richie en la sexta cuerda tiene el dispositivo este que con la palanca bajamos a drop D, nada más con moverla, y Richie responde que, bueno, esa es una adecuación que él hizo por él mismo, no es parte del equipo de la guitarra en sí. No está seguro de qué compañía lo fabrica.
Okay, this guy here's got a question. Go ahead.
Bueno, en español largo, entonces, para que la traduzcan. Hace tiempo conseguí una guitarra, una Stratocaster, pero no venía con chunky neck. No sé si sacaron dos versiones en Japón, una con neck grueso y una con neck delgado, o eso quería preguntar. ¿Tú utilizas el chunky neck?
He says that a few time ago, Fender released guitars with a different neck widths. What kind of neck do you use? What they call the chunky neck.
Yeah, this is a pretty substantial size neck as far as the thickness of it. It was based off of one of the first guitars that Fender made for me, and for my size I have fairly big hands, so I tend to like a larger neck. So for someone that plays the guitar, they might, I've heard the comments before that it's a large neck, and some people like it, some people don't. It's definitely a taste thing, and I definitely recommend playing the guitar for a while and make sure it fits your, what you want to feel out of the instrument. But the way this guitar is designed, it is a fatter neck. And I think that has an influence on the sound of the guitar as well.
Dice que él utiliza el cuello, el brazo ancho, porque sus manos son grandes, para él es más cómodo, pero bueno, está sujeto al gusto de muchos guitarristas. Hay gente que prefiere delgados, hay gente que prefiere grueso. En su caso, pues él lo prefiere así por el tipo de manos que tiene.
Hi Richie, welcome to Mexico. Yo quisiera preguntar ¿qué tanto depende el sonido que tú obtienes de la guitarra, o realmente es de las manos, del toque? Porque yo veo, de repente toca con plumilla o con los dedos y suena fantástico, ¿no? Entonces, ¿qué tanto depende de la guitarra? O si podemos obtener un sonido con una guitarra parecida, si nos puedes hablar acerca del toque, la manera de obtener tu sonido.
The sound you get when you play, do you think it has to do with the guitar, or is it strictly coming from the way it's from?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the instrument and the gear you choose, they come into play in a way where it makes it easier for you to communicate musically. But ultimately, the way a person sounds, it's what they play and the way they play it. So, not to discredit the instrument, but I'm going to sound pretty much like me no matter what I play. It might be more difficult for me to express myself on, I don't know, a Les Paul, for example. Completely different guitar, different scale, different sound, different pickups. If I were to play a Les Paul, and I have on records, I still sound like me, but it changes my approach. So when I select an instrument, part of why I play a Telecaster, makes it easier for me to convey what I hear in my head as a musician. So it doesn't mean that if you go out and you buy the exact set of equipment that your favorite guitar player uses, you're not going to sound like him. You're going to sound like you. But when you select an instrument, you select something that feels comfortable for you and allows you to play in the best way you can.
Bueno, dice que definitivamente sin quitarle crédito a los fabricantes de instrumentos, sí, el sonido viene de él, definitivamente, pero cuando él toca un instrumento que le es cómodo, es cuando puede expresarse. Si le pones una Les Paul, pues va a seguir sonando a él, pero no tan bien como con su Telecaster. Es como somos guitarristas, nos casamos con nuestro instrumento y no nos lo quitan. Finalmente es lo que dice.
Anybody else got any guitar? Yeah, go ahead.
For how long have you been playing with your fingers, and why did you make the transition from the pick?
That's a good question. So you're asking how long I play with my fingers and why.
Pregunta que por qué cambió su manera de tocar a los dedos.
I'm not sure how long I started. How long ago? It might have been 5 or 6 years ago, maybe not that long. I'm not sure, but I do remember I was on tour, and oftentimes as a touring artist, you find yourself in a position you're playing the same songs every night. Doesn't mean you don't love your music or you don't appreciate the opportunity to share your music, but you can fall into patterns. And sometimes, at least for me, I'm not the kind of musician that likes to, I'm not a mathematician. I come from a more a looser kind of approach. And so I found myself becoming bored and uninspired with what I was doing. And I remember it was in the middle of a tour in South America, and I had a night where I just thought I played really poorly, and I wanted to change something. And in the past, I had done gigs where I'd sit in at a jam session and a guy would hand me a pick. You know, I'd be playing a borrowed guitar, and I would say, "Oh, no thanks, I don't want to use your pick." You know, guys put the pick in their mouth, and who knows what it's been, right? So I would play with my fingers. And part of my style anyway, I use my fingers with the pick. So I remember being on tour and I thought, what if I just don't play with a pick? And see what happens, and do a gig, put myself on the spot. And obviously I knew it would eliminate a huge vocabulary of what I can do on the instrument. No alternate picking, no sweep picking, and so on. But I did it anyway. And after that show, I felt like I played better. I slowed down, I was more calm, I was more thoughtful in what I was doing. And I remember the manager I had at the time was really excited by it. He said, "Oh my God, you played your whole set without a pick. It sounded amazing, and you seemed so into it." And I said, "All right, cool, well let me see if I can get through the whole tour and not use a pick." And I did it, and then I kind of got into it, you know. It inspired me to play differently, and I felt better about playing music. I still use a pick. On the last record that I did that's about to come out, I did both. I played with a pick, without a pick. And when I play acoustic, I still use a pick, because I'm not a great finger picker when it comes to the 3-finger picking style. It's something I'm working on. But there's always something to learn on the guitar. But, you know, it's just a choice that I made to try something different, and it worked, and so I stuck with it.
Nos dice que alguna vez en un show de Latinoamérica andaba, bueno, en una gira en Latinoamérica, dice, no es que te aburras de tocar lo mismo. Empecé a tocar con los dedos, alguna vez alguien me ofreció una plumilla y dije, no, gracias, pues se lo había metido en la boca, no tenía plumilla en ese momento. Entonces pues comenzó a tocar con los dedos y se dio cuenta que pues tenía facilidad, le gustó, decidió hacerlo, pero que él sigue tocando con plumilla, que en el disco hay piezas que tocan la plumilla. Claro, tuvo que sacrificar mucho el lenguaje guitarrístico, como el sweep picking, el alternado, pues, ¿no? Pero que pues, ya lo desarrolló, le gustó y cree que se puede expresar bien así.
There's a guy right there, go ahead.
¿Podrías enseñarnos un ejercicio para ganar velocidad con la mano izquierda? Creo que muchos guitarristas no llegamos a tener la velocidad apropiada.
He's asking you to show some exercise to develop speed in your left hand.
Okay, exercises for speed in the left hand. I'll probably show you the same exercise that I showed when I was 18 in my instructional video. It's the only exercise I know.
Les voy a mostrar uno que yo utilizaba cuando tenía 18 años.
Yeah, you know, it's funny how you think about technique. I mean, for me, my technique really evolved out of just convenience. I just did things that came easy to me, but and this was never really an exercise. It was just a pattern that I used, but it can be used as an exercise.
Les vamos a hacer un patrón que en realidad no es un ejercicio por sí mismo, pero es algo que yo utilizo, porque bueno, los de velocidad pues los utilizaba cuando tenía 18 años, pero mi manera de tocar se basa en la comodidad.
Anyway, I'll demonstrate it, and then you can translate it after I demonstrate it. Okay, so, yeah, he's doing a great job too. Thank God for him, because it'd be real difficult. So, first of all, at some point you have to strike the string. You have to hit it. You can hit it by hammering on, or you can pluck it. So for this exercise, we'll start off by plucking the string. And if we're going to play the E on the 9th fret, and then the next move is a pull off. And then at that point, it's all left hand. And you hammer on. So you have the pull off. And this first action, it's like kind of one instant hit. So when you do the first part and do those two hammer-ons, rather than pulling the string again, you pull off with your left hand. And that's it. So you strike the string once with your right hand, and then the rest is all left hand. So if you do it slow, you practice it with a metronome if you want to get it more in time, or, well, weird sound coming from the monitor. Creepy. Anyway, so yeah, now, the last part that I did is just moving the pattern around. Once you get the pattern under your fingers, you use a slide type technique. So you hit the note by sliding into it. And it's kind of that simple. I don't have a lot of exercises for developing the left hand, but that's a pattern that I use, and that can be used as a good exercise.
Bueno, como vieron, se trata que primero jala la cuerda con el dedo, sería el 3, y hace hammer en las otras, con las otras dos notas. Creo que pueden escoger cualquiera, ¿no? Y hacen lo mismo de regreso, de manera que con un solo golpe se generan 6 sonidos. Lo demás es hacer el legato hacia cualquier otro traste, de sentido musical. Y de esta manera van desarrollando velocidad sin depender de la mano derecha, únicamente con la mano izquierda, como preguntabas. Bueno, lo vieron. Perfecto.
Comentas en alguna entrevista que la mayoría de lo que aprendiste fue antes de los 20 años, mas sin embargo veo que eres un músico en constante crecimiento. ¿Cómo es tu técnica de estudio?
It says that you once said that all you play, you learn before you turn 20, but he says that you're constant grooves and what's your technique for this?
Well, I think when you learn the guitar, you go through any instrument. You go through the picking up the instrument for the first time, learning the fundamentals, music, what chords sound like, how they relate to each other, theory, and you build a foundation. So however long that takes to build that foundation is what it is. But at some point, you have to take those tools that you develop and use them in a way that translates to making music. And so for me, I spent a lot of time as a teenager moving my hands and transcribing solos and listening to guitar players that I liked and just getting familiar with the instrument and how the notes fit together and all that sort of thing. And then I got to a point where I realized, well, I can kind of play, I'm okay on the instrument, I can get around the fretboard, now what? And then I started thinking differently and thinking in terms of music, and suddenly I started taking my ideas that I had and I turned them into songs. And I think that's the real objective when you learn an instrument. You learn the instrument to know how to play it, but ultimately you have to create music with it. So you can either be someone that is a virtuoso on the instrument that can play anything that anybody could write, and you get all those gigs, or maybe you don't have that skill, but you have your own ideas, and then you make music that other people connect with, and then they buy your CDs and go to your concerts. So it's just a matter of what you do once you get the foundation. The reality is that it's never ending. There's always things to learn. There's so many different things that can be done on the instrument. Personally, for me, I'm always open to learning new things and discovering other approaches to playing the guitar. And that's what keeps my own creativity moving forward. It's a door that you don't want to close. You never want to think, oh, well, I know everything I need to know, and now I'm done. Because that could ultimately be the end of the creative process.
Todo lo que yo toco, obviamente sí lo aprendí cuando era adolescente. Escuchaba a guitarristas que me gustaban, que escribía solos, trataba de sacar los solos de los CDs, etc. Y fui creando este tipo de, lo que dice foundation, ¿no? Que yo lo interpreto como, pues como un estilo propio. Finalmente me di cuenta que ya tocaba, que tenía un estilo propio, que podía tocar lo que yo quería, que podía mover mi mano alrededor del diapasón. Y bueno, entonces surgió la parte creativa. Yo creo que me considero un músico en un constante crecimiento, no que ya me quedé ahí. Sí, en verdad, lo que tú dices se está desarrollando, pues así lo dice él. Esto nunca se acaba, en realidad nunca dejas de aprender, y pues cada día hay algo nuevo que hacer.
Cool.
¿Alguien más?
Your influences?
What?
Which ones did you hear when you were young? Your influences?
Can't hear you. Oh, my influences.
Influences, yeah.
Well, as a guitar player, guys like Hendrix and Clapton and Eddie Van Halen and Stevie Ray Vaughan. But also I was influenced by the music that was played in my house. A lot of what's now considered classic rock, like The Who, or the Beatles, the Rolling Stones. And also a lot of soul music, like Stevie Wonder and the Spinners and the Four Tops and that sort of thing. So my influences are kind of fall somewhere in that classic rock realm and soul R&B. Not necessarily what R&B has become. It's something very, very different than what it was when I was a 10-year-old boy. But those are my main influences. And then in writing, a lot of the influences have nothing to do with music. It's just a situation and finding a way to translate that into a song that people can relate to. That I think is an important thing too. It's like, I remember when I first wanted to write songs, I didn't understand the lyrics. I just started rhyming stuff. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. And then I started getting into different kinds of artists. For a while, I was really into Elvis Costello when I was a teenager, I liked his songs and the way he twisted words around and that sort of thing. And different artists, and you start to realize that that's a whole other thing, you know, just being able to tell a story and you know, using the language in a way where it still sings well. You know, when you sing it, it sounds good, it feels good to sing, but also it hits you verbally when you read it. It makes sense. That's an interesting talent that a lot of guys have. Even like I love like the Eagles, you know, Don Henley's lyrics, and just like telling a story, and it's a creative way to say something that just fits so well in a song and sings so well. And that's the kind of stuff that excites me about music. More so, I love a great guitar solo, but I like to hear a good story too.
Bueno, él dice que sus influencias comienzan primero pues con el rock clásico y con el rhythm and blues, no confundir con lo que ahora él dice en lo que se ha convertido el rhythm and blues, que es otra cosa muy distinta, pero que definitivamente vienen influencias de todos los artistas que mencionó, y que bueno, en cuanto a las letras, pues él antes hacía letras que bueno, rimaran y se oyeran bien y punto, pero después él empezó a encontrarle un sentido más poético, entonces se dio cuenta que las letras tenían que ser cuestiones que plasmaran una situación, pero que se escucharan bien y que además se leyeran bien poéticamente, independientemente de la música, algo con lo que uno se sintiera cómodo al decir, que reflejara una situación y que de alguna manera tuvieran sentido, vaya, que hubiese un peso poético, ¿no? Lo que decía, no nada más rimas. Entonces esto lo fue desarrollando y creo que ¿no? Pues ya así es como él lo está trabajando.
Richie, do you have any special right hand position or any special pick that you use or that you prefer to use?
You know, it just depends on what I'm trying to play, and you know, 90% of the time when I play, I'm playing something that I wrote. So I just find a way to play it that's comfortable, you know. But you know, I don't know. I really have never analyzed my technique enough to give you that answer. I mean, if you ask me something specific, I could probably show you. But I know there's a lot of interaction between my thumb and my first finger. You know. I just thought, like, why are you doing a guitar clinic if you can't tell what you're playing? Play perfectly. You know,
Hace mucha interacción entre su dedo medio y su dedo pulgar, pero no sabes exactamente qué hacer.
Hearing the note and finding a way to get there, you know. I know one thing I do a lot of times, because I'm so used to playing in a trio, I always have strings ringing, and I do it on purpose because it just fattens up the sound, you know. If I'm in B minor, and I'll try to let that low note ring as long as I can until the bass moves to a note that I can't, you know, that I can't let it ring. Little tricks like that. A lot of times too, in bending, a big part of my sound is playing a note. Sometimes if I want to play this note, I won't play this note. I'll play the note behind it, but bend up to it. Because then, and it's probably because I don't have a tremolo bar, but it's something I do a lot. You know, go behind the note that I want to play and bend into it instead of playing it. Bend to it. And it kind of eliminates the sound of the fret a little bit. Something I like to do.
Bueno, dice que como siempre toca en tríos, bueno, procura que siempre hay una nota grave sonando, un pedal, alguna nota para engordar el sonido, que se escuche más bien. Y que, bueno, no pues. Okay.
Ignore me. I'm just new.
I'm talking about one killed leader, but don't expect me to remember all this.
Is it possible?
Pero que él siempre deja un pedal sonando, ¿no? Para que engorde el sonido. Y cuando tú utilizas, por ejemplo, una nota de mi, él siempre pone el dedo en mi bemol, en este caso, y desde ahí hace el bending, porque no utiliza una palanca de trémolo. Entonces hace este tipo de estirar la cuerda todo el tiempo, que es ya como una técnica inherente a él.
It's easy to sound good when you only play your music. It's like you say, well, that's what it's supposed to sound like. I wrote it that way.
Es más fácil cuando haces tu propia música.
All right.
¿Alguna más?
A lot of questions.
La manera en la que promocionas tu música es totalmente independiente y aún así llegas a muchos países. ¿A qué crees que se deba eso?
Your music is independent. You produce independently. How do you manage to make it reach all these countries you go to?
The internet.
Una más.
Thanks for the internet.
Quería saber que cómo fue la experiencia, qué tan distinta fue la experiencia cuando tocaste en el disco de Vertu y por ejemplo en Mr. Big, no sé, la relación por ejemplo con Billy Sheehan musicalmente hablando. ¿Sí?
Tell us something about your experience of playing with Mr. Big and Billy Sheehan and all those people.
Oh, he's asking about that. That's great. That was a really fun time for me. It was a busy year when I did that record because I had a lot going on. I did 2 solo records that year, and I did a record with Stanley Clark, and then I joined Mr. Big. And we spent about 4 years together. 2 studio records and a couple of live things that were put out. And it was cool for me to play with Mr. Big because that band was already known right around the time I was coming out of high school. And I was a big fan of Billy Sheehan and Steve Vai when he got in David Lee Roth. And when Billy formed Mr. Big, I remember getting the record from a friend of mine that worked at Atlantic Records. They sent me a preview of it. And I was blown away just by the vibe of the record because it was very soulful, with Eric Martin singing. And I really connected to the sound of that band. And I became friendly with them over the years. And before I even joined Mr. Big, Pat Torpey, who's the drummer of Mr. Big, and Billy Sheehan played on one of my songs on a solo record of mine, which was incredible and a great honor to have them on the record. And when they asked me to join the band, it was just another, kind of pinch myself thing, like, wow, it's a band that I grew up listening to, that I've been a fan of, and now they want me to play with them. So it was very cool, and we made some cool music together. And now I have a new band with Billy Sheehan, so I'm very excited about that.
Bueno, pues dice que siempre fue fan de Mr. Big, fue una banda que él admiraba aún cuando estaba empezando y que pues fue realmente maravilloso que de repente tuvieron noticia que lo estaban invitando a tocar con ellos, porque siempre fue una fan, ¿no? Que tuvo 2 discos con ellos.
There's a guy right here in front of me.
I'm studying music, I'm a guitarist. I would like to, you started off at a really early age, so what would you recommend to me or a lot of people?
Are you learning guitar?
Yeah.
Well,
I've been playing for 12 years.
12 years? You're not starting.
I've just started to learn formally.
Oh, okay. Well, do you have a teacher?
Yeah, I'm in a school.
Oh, then that's good. You're doing the right thing. I mean, I can only really draw from my experience, and the one thing that, other than me just becoming obsessed and living in a very small town with nothing to do, which forced me to just sit and play the guitar all day long, I became real focused on it. But that doesn't mean you're going to get good at it. It just means you'll learn certain things and patterns. What helped me grow as a musician was playing with people. And I was lucky enough that I was able to play with guys that were older than me, more experienced, that knew a little more than me about music and playing together. And I learned from that. And even when I look at my evolution, once I became known, I started making records at a young age. But even the first record I made, I was playing with guys that were more advanced than me. I had my own sound, my own thing, which is why I got a record deal, because I was doing something that was perceived as interesting. But these guys were guys that were more seasoned, had more knowledge, more experience, and I was able to learn from them. And I was able to do that continually. So I would suggest to someone young trying to grow as a musician, just try to associate yourself with people that you can learn from. Don't ever get yourself in a mindset where like, oh yeah, that's cool, but check out this, like I have the answer. Don't get in that mindset. Even if you think that, keep it to yourself. You need to know how to listen to other people and hear what they're doing. And even if you're playing with someone that's not playing so well, you can learn from that too. Oh, well, this doesn't sound good. Now I know why. Now I know what not to do. And I've been in that situation as well. So it's being open, and the key about playing music with other people is listening and communicating. Don't have tunnel vision. Don't just get up on stage and do your thing. You know, listen to what the other guys are doing. Play together. The best live bands are bands that react off each other. You can hear it when they play. A guy does something on the snare drum, suddenly the bass player does something, and then the guitar player does a little thing, and the singer changes. They're all playing together. It's communication. That's what good music, when you hear a song you like, that's why it sounds good, because it's all fitting together like a good conversation.
Yeah, but like in the industry, when you started, it was the 80s, and you got Mr. Big and all these big bands, but now industry has decayed a little.
Well, you can't look at my career and try to parallel your career from that, because like you said, it's a different time, and Mr. Big for me was actually 2000, so it wasn't the 80s, it was much later. And I worked up to a point where they would even consider to have me in their band. So it's easy as a musician and a music fan to look at other guys that you might like their music or like what they've done and try to parallel yourself, but you really, it's a bad way to approach it. I think you have to just play music for the sake of you enjoy it. I love music, I love the feeling I get from it, and if you have that mindset, you'll have success. You might not have monetary success, but you'll have personal success, which at the end of the day feels better, in my opinion. You know, even my daughter, for example, she's 15, playing music, and she's doing very well in our city and playing gigs. But I don't ever try to manipulate or control what she does. And the only thing I do tell her is that play music because you enjoy it. If you have fun with it and you're getting something out of it and you feel good after a show, do it. If it becomes a laboring process where it's math and you have to start to think, well, yeah, I really want to play this, but I can't because I want to get over here, and if I play this thing, then this will happen. When you start doing that shit, you know, unless you're going to be a pop star, you know, you can't think that way. If you're going to be a musician, be a musician. If you want to be a celebrity, then that's a whole other avenue. And you can use music to make yourself a celebrity. It's more difficult. You probably should get on a reality show first, and then make a record, and then you can do it that way. But it's like, it's easy to be an artist. You just have to just create, just do it, and be open, and don't judge yourself, and grow, and work with people that inspire you and move you forward. That's a long-winded answer. I hope you're not going to try to translate.
Done. Bueno, digo, lo interesante, rescatable que dijo. Él creció en un pueblo de Pensilvania, un pueblo muy pequeño, que bueno, esto facilita las cosas, porque finalmente pues estás en un lugar donde no hay nada que hacer, entonces él tenía todo el tiempo del mundo para practicar. Empezó a conocer músicos con los que empezó a palomear, pues finalmente estos músicos eran mayores que él, es algo que recomienda, siempre hay que juntarse con gente que tenga más experiencia, de la cual pueden aprender, pero no obstante pues hay gente que toca no tan bien como uno, a la cual también se le puede aprender, desde el hecho de darse uno cuenta de lo que no se debe hacer, pues también este tipo de compañeros no tan experimentados nos pueden enseñar mucho, ¿no? Es básicamente. ¿Alguien más?
Hi, Richie. Can you talk about the writing process with other musicians like Mike Porno and Billy Sheehan? How do you get there, you guys? Jamming, hanging around? How do you get to write music?
It's a secret.
That's cool.
No, basically, it's interesting trying to write with people. Writing sessions, I don't know, to go in on a cold writing session and come out with a song, I mean, you got to kind of know somebody to really, I think, connect with them. I mean, or someone can just be already connected. It's kind of an intangible. That was a crazy thing I just said. I think it is a secret. It's a secret. That's my answer. When we made the record with the Winery Dogs, with Billy and Mike, there were a couple of formulas that came to play in writing that. And first off, we got together and played together to see if we even connected. And that meant going in a room, plugging in, jamming. Hey, I got a riff. Hey, I got a bass line. Check out this drum beat. So we did that for about a week. And after the week, we ended up with 6 or 7 pieces that sounded like they could evolve into a song. And then we did that maybe twice. And then we picked the ones we liked. And then basically developed them from there. I took a bunch of them and sat down and listened to them and heard melodies and wrote lyrics. And there's a song that Mike himself wrote words and melodies to. And that was the approach for that. And then the other half of the record was a situation of bringing ideas that were already complete or almost complete into the project. For example, there were a couple songs in the record that I had written previously, and I remember calling Billy saying, "Hey, what do you think about me playing piano on this song?" He said, "Oh, it's great." So, and this is an interesting thing about writing. I'll tell you a really cool story about this song. I had this song pretty much written, and I played it for him. This is how it goes, and this is what I'm hearing on the drums. Here's what I'm hearing for the feel. And I said, "But I got this other section in the same key, same time signature, same tempo. And I don't know if I should make this the chorus or keep the chorus I have." And I remember they were cutting another song in the studio at the time. I'm in the living room with the piano, and Billy says, "Man," he said, "why don't you just use both?" And he walked out of the room. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's a good idea." So now I'm playing it, and I figured out, okay, how to use both. And the song, when you get the record, you'll hear it. It's the last song on the record. It's called Regret. And it goes through the whole form, and then I think it goes to a solo, and then it comes to like a chorus outro, and that's that other chorus that I had written, and I worked it into the same song. So sometimes you can have all the pieces together, and maybe you have to puzzle backwards, and somebody else says, "Oh, no, put this here and put that there," and then you have a song. And that's the cool thing about co-writing and doing that, is you kind of get something that you might not have gotten on your own. But still, it's most importantly, it's a secret.
Que básicamente ellos se juntaron y primero tenían que ver si se podían conocer, ¿verdad? Si en verdad tenían química juntos, entonces se juntaban a tocar y de esta manera salieron 6 o 7 piezas. Esa fue una de las maneras que después ya fueron desarrollando. Ahora también cada quien aportó ideas, las cuales mezclaban y bueno, como armaron rompecabezas, ellos iban juntando partes, quitándolas, poniéndolas enfrente, etcétera, hasta que desarrollaron. Vamos a hacer una pregunta más y terminamos para que toquen.
Hola, ¿qué tal, Richie? ¿Cómo estás? Oye, pues yo quiero saber con qué calibre de cuerdas usas tu guitarra y si siempre que viajan en las giras llevan su propio equipo y por qué tu guitarra solamente es hecha en Japón.
Well, he asking about the gauge of your strings you use. Also, if you carry your stuff every time you go play
Yeah,
in the world.
yeah, I do.
And if your guitar is made in Japan, is it?
Yes. You read the bio, didn't you? Yeah, the guitar is made in Japan. I carry my own equipment around the world, and strings. I use the Diodariums, 11 through 49 is the gauge. And you know, typically I travel with one guitar, just because of the nature of how we tour. It's very low key. I like to travel light, and I can only play one guitar at one time, so that's why I just bring one.
Utiliza calibre 11-49 de Dario. Y sí, lleva su guitarra siempre. Y la guitarra es efectivamente fabricada en Japón.
Right, we'll do one more question. Or are we done? Yeah, right here.
What is your first solo that you play, that you learn?
The first thing I learned to play was Purple Haze, and I learned it
Can
raw.
you show us?
You want to hear me play Purple Haze? Well, I learned it like this. I learned it in open position. And I remember when I learned it, I was little. And then my mom was a Hendrix fan. She saw Hendrix twice live. And I remember playing it. She's like, she really upset me. She said, "That's not Purple Haze." I'm like, "What do you mean?" "That's not Purple Haze." And I'm reading the music. I studied all day practicing, playing the right notes. And because it didn't sound, it didn't have that, you know, I couldn't do that. So it really kind of killed my spirit.
That's it, Richie.
Anyway, we're gonna play one more song, and then we got some T-shirts and stuff over here. If you want to pick one up too. CDs,
Hay
DVDs.
merchandise aquí, si gusta comprar, te trajo.
Le tenía que preguntar.
Since he brought up Purple, we talked about me playing Hendrix. I'll try to play another Hendrix song. Mike Bennett playing drums, Dylan Wilson on the bass. Just a couple of small guys playing music songs.
Secretos del Shred.